of playing her because there have been so much out there. In fact, there's a Broadway musical opening next week, Diana. I mean, there's television and all this stuff. This is so unique, but I'm curious when the project came to you, what, what was it that you said, I can bring something to this that is part of me?
Um, Being totally honest, I think that came later. I was drawn to this super instinctively. I think I really love Pablo's movies. And it was the tone of his voice on the phone. I will say, like, it was a kind of call to arms. He had this, like, stern, kind of low intensity. And now I know him and I know his face and it's very sweet, but I was like, wow, this guy's for real. But yeah, there were just sort of these, like, long pauses in between the things that we decided to say to each other that said everything. I don't know, I thought it was so daring and audacious to step into this world with the confidence to have like an abstract, kind of weird, very oddly punk rock, like tone poem approach to something that people covet and protect, like, sometimes with a vengeance. I was like, it seems like I just knew that I should do this. It wasn't because I was like, had any sort of incredibly developed sense of who she was before I read the script. The script was so strange. So trippy. Yeah, it just felt like such an internal experience, and ultimately I didn't know how far he was gonna push the surreality. But when we did the Pearl scene, and it wasn't just a sort of moments kind of fantasy nightmare, and it was a really drawn out, like something that you can't wake up from. And you wake up and you're like, God, I feel like I just dreamt 10 years of fucking hell. That was that Pearl scene. I just couldn't believe how long we were doing it. I couldn't believe how many looks and how developed that interaction was. That was all in the script, but I will say, like, all of these breaths in between large statements is like what this movie focuses on. I just think that's the coolest thing ever. I did all the research, whatever. I read all the books and kind of buried all these emotional triggers in relation to her and her life, and I feel like I know her, but also like that's such a strange thing to say. That's speaks to who she was and kind of like how she connected with people, because I feel so very much like it's ownership of my like how she affected me is true, and even if it lives in my imagination, that's what my reality is. So like yeah, ironically, this unknowable person who we were just gonna try and unveil, and she also has this like palpable craving that I feel is just like that's somebody that you want to make a movie about, somebody who wants to bear themselves, and I just think she wanted to sort of like dance in public, and it was such a cool idea that I got to kind of help do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
While you're talking about dancing, tell me about those sequences in that, which were so cool. I mean, here you are dancing through halls and things. Did you have a lot of rehearsal time on that, or was that just all free form?
It is hot in here. I mean, I'm like, I can hear someone talking, but it is warm. The montage was shot at the end of every single day. So, we were only allowed to, I'd say allowed to, well, we were sort of meditating, contemplating these, projected 3 days that obviously never really existed, but kind of must have at some point, probably was a tumultuous lead up to actually to make that decision to leave the royal family. But I wanted to do her whole life. I didn't want to make that movie. I didn't want to make that biopic, but there were things that I wanted so badly to taste and to get close to, and like, I think the montage feels like this life is flashing before your eyes a little bit. And anything that I found like infuriating or sad or enlivening in a day's work, we kind of brought that into the dance sequence, and it's like, you know, depending on the location and what the outfit was and the song that he chose and the sort of way we decided to shoot it was really genuinely like a lyrical exploration of my whole reaction to the story in general. The first direction that he gave me, I mean, because I was like so obsessed and scared, I was scared this is the one part that I can't control. I couldn't prep for it. She was a dancer, I'm not. And I was like, can you please just give me any indication of how this is gonna go? And he's like, absolutely not. Yeah, such a beautiful feeling. And like it takes serious like balls to, you know, explore and actually like allow someone to inhabit space in a free and curious way and not feel, I never felt like this by osmosis anxiety from him. I never was like, because also there's a certain amount of pressure that a director can put on you that is encouraging and actually is like good, but as I get older, I function from a place of, I think when I'm like safe and comfortable, that's when I feel the most present and the most capable of digging deep and being honest. And this thing scared the shit out of me, and I literally from him just constantly, no matter what, I never felt this sort of like, you need to do this for me. I've put a lot on you. I mean, I don't know how you did that, but in all of the dancing stuff, that was when I felt the most sort of, I don't know, like we were doing something like free verse music. I felt like we were doing some weird like improv jazz thing that coincided with the score. It was just like, whatever, I'm going on and on about this, but thank you so much for like, you know, yeah. It felt like just like carved this crazy path, and then he just was like watching all of us just dump our buckets of water down. And he's like honestly he's the coolest director I've ever worked with.
We all have mics now. That fascinates me, the whole dancing, that you did it every day, and then you put it together in the editing room. Is that how you like to work, Pablo? You know, that kind of free form, and then you create all this later in the editing room? What's your technique?
It's a mix of things because.
Yep.
Hello, no. Hello there. Well, the truth is that I have never worked with a script that was so precise. So it was in a way a new thing for me. The order that the movie has right now is exactly the same order that is on the script.
Oh.
We try to move certain scenes here and there, we just couldn't do it. It's not that we want to do it, but I just did exercise of positioning certain ideas before the other, and it was a disaster. So it's very impressive what Steve did, and so I felt a little bit compressed, and also I felt that it was a good sort of therapy for us, and particularly for Kristen to do that. So what we would do is like we were in any set, and before we leave, we will be carrying this rack of clothes that they made it to the very final, but not to any scene. So I would choose one of them, and then I would be holding this huge German speaker like this, and I would play a song that I would just find there. That it was from Miles Davis to, I don't know, LCD Sound System, Talking Heads, Sinead O'Connor, all kind of different. There was just one song, and then Diego was our Chilean Steadicam operator, the Chilean bullet, that was there with us.
He's like this tall. Like
Very,
a ballet dancer. Unbelievable.
so he would put a whole new roll on the camera, we shot on film, and it was just as long as it could. And the only instruction was just be present, you know, which is so hard. Sometimes I think it's the most simple instruction for an actor and the hardest one, which is just to be there, and that's all. It's just like, and actors need a lot of information sometimes. What am I doing? What's my emotion? What am I looking at? Where I'm coming from? Where I'm going? Like, you know, it's like, hey, just be here. Just right here, right now. I'm gonna play this music, and you do whatever you want. So sometimes it was walking, and sometimes she couldn't avoid dance, and then that helped her, I think, I feel here, so you can say I'm wrong, to really sort of grab the character in another layer, in another level. And it just made her so close to our version of Diana, the person that we've obviously never met. And that created an incredible emotional connection, not only with the movie and the character, but everyone that was there too. These movies are made by a lot of people. And it was an American actor, a Chilean director, with British actors in Germany. So we needed to have things in common, not just the movie or whatever. So
and
that,
everyone's like this.
and with masks
Yeah.
so that helps to really understand what we were doing, and it was very nice for everyone, very beautiful to see. And then when we put it together in the editing room, that's the only thing that didn't have a place. So I spent a week just trying different places, just for the sake of it. I obviously needed to be where it is now, because it operates at a moment where she unleashes something, and the story turns into another thing. And then Johnny composed that piece of music that's called Crucifix. I didn't put the name, he did, but it's so beautiful, so moving.
Yikes, crucifix.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, it's beautiful to have sets of things that can be so free inside of a structure that's so tight.
Yeah.
Because whenever you put it, it just feels like a big break free.
Can you talk about the aspects of fame that this shows? One of my favorite scenes in this movie is at the pool table, where they're on opposite sides. I thought that was so extraordinarily played, also by the actor playing Prince Charles.
Jack Fardy.
Yeah, he's good. It's not a
Amazing.
likable character, but it was so interesting, that line that he says, just, the cameras, that's for them, and that's not you, the real versus the thing. I'm fascinated by what this brings up about fame in that way. It's very interesting to play out. Certainly, Kristen, you know a lot about fame and that whole invasion there too. What was it about that aspect of it that interested you?
Well, I've been trying to figure out like a concise way of putting this without seeming invasive, because I clearly there is a like a glaring parallel between the amount of cameras in our lives, which is pretty neat. I am. You can see this person is very, very desperate to communicate, and that she is constantly doing it in these veiled, strange, kind of like sideways, diagonal ways. I always feel like when she's doing an interview, like it's why she tips her head down and look. It's like she's like not allowed to say what she wants to say, and she's gonna tell you with her eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like that's. I feel like there's this wall in front of her in most public arenas, and she's sort of reaching around it, and I don't have to do that. I can say whatever I want. And I can't even imagine the whole story is that perpetuating this thing that felt like a lie to her. It was just a total farce. It started to eat away. It started to eat away at her identity, which is what the movie's about. So she started to not exist anymore. And this person is such a clearly undeniable, alive person. She is somebody who is alive, and I am leaning towards lenses. I mean, it's annoying that I can't go to Starbucks, but also it's because I want everyone to see my movie. So it's like I want it's just for they're just there for such different reasons that I think people really are desperate to have me be like, oh, I completely understand what that's like, and it is hard, and it is hard, but the difficulty is just it's such a different brand.
The there's also something that I think is interesting is that, and maybe you didn't hear it because I walked in tonight, and in that scene, a phone came up right when he was saying this, so I could repeat it in case you missed it. He says, there have to be two of you, right? One that is public, and then he said, you have to do things that your body hates. And she says that he hates, yes, for the country. And she goes, for the country. That thing, it's a revelation. When I read it, I understood a lot of what we were doing.
Really?
Yeah, because it's, I don't know, hate is a very strong word for me.
It's violent.
It's super
so
violent.
Like things you hate.
Yeah,
Jesus,
chew your body,
man.
chew your
Oh,
body.
God. I know.
But you make your body things to hate. So it's that is the level of repression or oppression, and it's very high. So that is what they experience. Everyone. I know you say that maybe he's not a very likable character, but everyone in there is trapped in the wheels of history and tradition. They were all born to privilege, and they have these incredible circumstances, right? They're very particular, but at the same time, they cannot really escape it. And so it's a collective thing that they have, and some of them are better at it than others, but some of them just don't fit. And also, you know, she can always leave. There isn't really a lock in the door. She's not in jail. It's very hard to do it, but she just doesn't want you to do things that she hates to her body. So she just leaves and walks out and gets in the car and drives out. It's quite simple, but it's just very hard to make that decision, and we can all connect with hard decisions in our life. I've taken a few in my life that, you know, maybe you have. So it's good because it's just so, it becomes so regular.
That scene at the end, you're talking about the ending where also you can go out and go into a fast food place and have them a bit of anonymity that she could never experience, which was great. I mean, you gave a happy ending here for the audience who may not have been expecting it, and I love the way the movie ended with her just saying her name, Spencer, and that song, All I Need Is a Miracle. This is what a movie maker can do. You know, which is great. Can you talk a little bit about that before I go to audience for a second?
Yeah, we know the tragedy, and she carries that. It's like sort of like a Greek, right? She carries that, and we know that. So if we have a moment when we understand that she was loved, and she can feel that, and she can really feel that they're with their kids, it's enough. And maybe that micro world can be so strong that you can feel it's actually a happy ending, as you say.
Yeah.
And I will say one last thing, because I remember it was very funny, we were shooting the scene, and the kids, I gave them the paper with the lyrics of the word, the song, right, so that they can memorize it for the singing. And then they go and said, okay, Pablo, who's the miracle? What's all I need is a miracle? What is the miracle? And I said, right here. It's your mother.
And they were terrific, both those kids. Yeah. You clearly you established a nice rapport with them on screen, I think, too.
They're the best. I mean, honestly, that's so lucky. Yeah. He shows well. He has good taste. Like those kids are cool. They're cool. I mean, honestly, like I was like, and how steeped they are in sort of like royal awareness is. It was so impressive. They're so smart, those little guys. Like, and also made me feel better when they were around. I was like, oh, thank God you're here. You know, and Jack also spent a lot of time on set when he wasn't working because of lockdown. Kids can't go home in between. He was so bored, and we couldn't get couldn't get him off the set. There were times where I was like, oh.
Jack is the older one that plays
Yeah. But he like loves films and like he just is so like enthralled and obsessed and just like wants to be there all the time. And he's like, I wish he was here now. Like,
So cool. All right, let's see if you guys have any questions. You do. Okay. Right there, you just put your hand up.
Hi, I'm Robin, and which scenes, or pick one that was the most difficult for you to do to fulfill your vision, and Kristen, I'd love to know one of the most difficult for you.
Okay, she just wants to know what the most difficult scene for both of you was,
Or one of them.
or one of them.
I prefer to work with less actors, so when there are many, it's,
People just keep asking me so many questions.
no, but it's not that, and also we had I think it's the hunting scene, it was very relevant for the film, when she walks in and it's just practical things, I won't bore you with whatever, but it was hard to do that, and then we reshot other things than in England, whatever, it's a long story, but yeah, and then the dance, and yeah, just too many cars and people, but.
Thank you.
I at some point like couldn't wander the grounds anymore. I couldn't just walk. I was kind of going crazy, and my feet were falling off, wandering the grounds. Whenever we did anything with like a lot of intention, obviously the whole movie has like kind of a crazy pace. Like it kind of once it gets up and starts running, it just fucking like doesn't stop barreling. I would say I can't pick one scene. My feet were falling off. The hardest part of the movie, genuinely, was that I was just like, dude, my feet hurt so bad. Nails were.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, sure, right there.
First of all, great job. What drew you to Kristen for the role of Diana?
She wants to know how you chose Kristen.
Yeah.
I'll leave
It's-
for a second.
no, the truth is that the reason is that I don't think I can actually understand her. In camera, I mean, and it's very, very undescribable, very mysterious. I think that when there's that thing that it's like music, you have to hear it. So I saw movies that she did, of course, and there's a movie that I really love called A Personal Shopper. It's called Olivia Sayas. And I saw the movie and I loved it, and I wonder why I loved it so much. And maybe one of the reasons that I wasn't able to crack her and character. And I was like, okay, what about Diana?
One of my best friends met him for the first time last night. We had a premiere last night, and she was like, on the way over here, she was like, I love Pablo, I'm really friends with him. I was like, I know, we need to keep him. And she was like, I had a conversation with him that I'm so like thankful that I got to have. And she said that she was like asking him like what people were asking, because we've been answering a lot of questions lately, which is rad. But they were like, mainly he's like, why Kristen? Why, like, what did you see? Like, why Diana and Kristen? And he's like, I can't say what the answer is, which is, I just had a feeling. And it's like, sometimes, honestly, like, there are questions that you want to be generous with the person asking, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I can try and really, like, think, like, kind of pull an answer out of my ass. But, like, I just had a really good feeling this was going to be the way. Why did I just decide to?
Cool. Let's take someone up there. Yes, right there. Yes, you. That's you.
Kristen, I was wondering, after a long day of like emotional turmoil on set, how do you like recover?
What happens after a long day?
Yeah. I thank God this movie didn't take that long to shoot. Any anytime we had a kind of, I felt better at the end of overtly emotional days because they were so, it was nice to have like some release. The movie is like a constant bracing, and so I think in the more kind of, in the scenes that felt like kind of shattering, I have a really strange relationship to sleep, and I slept like a baby on this movie. I just like slept. If I wasn't on set, I was sleeping, and that really is saying something because I don't do that. It was a huge gift. I don't know. It was like a spooky gift, and.
Incredible, I said nothing.
But yeah, no, it feels, on this, there were a couple, like, he kind of sprung the more emotional stuff on me, so I didn't have to, like, labor over the dread and kind of, like, pressure of hoping that it went well. There's this one thing that I didn't even really realize, in the script it's not really made much of, but in leaving the pearl necklace eating scene, he was like, I think that you, like, it's the end of a day, I think that we have 20 minutes left of our day and we're just gonna shoot this thing right now, cause I think he probably noticed that I was a little bit like edgy and tired and like fucked up. And so he was like, really pushed this like walk down the hall, into extreme sort of shrieky, nightmarish, strange, weird, surreal, whatever, but in order to get into it, I was just screaming, like off camera, just like, just as kind of this long pre-roll, just sort of like trying to make these like agonizing sounds, because if you kind of get it, if you kickstart the engine, suddenly you're like, oh, actually it's becoming real. And it was so, I've never cried like that on a set. I've never like scared myself. I literally was like, he came over and like put his hand on my back. I mean, look, this is the goal as well. So it's very celebratory. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. I'm feeling something for real. Fuck yes. And then you're like celebrating this day that you actually just became like, I mean, I was a fucking puddle. So oddly, I was just like kind of jumping for joy at the end of really hard days. Yeah.
Okay, you got time for one or two more. Okay, you, because you're going like that. Yeah, that's you.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so I was like in love with the wardrobe, right? And so I'm wondering like how you felt in the wardrobe, and did you feel like connected at all to like, I don't know, what you thought of Diana in like real life, like I don't know.
Wants to know about the costumes and all of that, yeah.
Costumes are great. They're so good. She was somebody who like, I think, communicated a lot, like I was saying, like because she wasn't allowed to be articulate and straight up, she used whatever, she used her clothes like sometimes as protection, or, you know, I feel like this has kind of been said before, so I don't want to sound trite, but like occasionally as she sort of weaponizes her clothing, and there's so many little hidden messages in her, like she loved Chanel, but she always made them remove the double C's because it reminded her of Camilla.
But it's very beautiful as well. It's an incredible, there's a point of when fashion can become a form of art, I think. And some of those fabrics, and Dagny Duran, our costume designer, is really a wonderful artist. And it was just so much fun and very beautiful, and we had the help of companies like Chanel and others. And then Kristen, you know, that was great. Yeah.
He's so obsessed with the clothes, it's crazy. Fabric, colors, always looking, touching. Literally, he has like a sticky roller in his hand. It's, yeah, whatever. Sticky roller.
No, I had the wrong.
Very cool. I just got a signal that we have to go, but let's thank Kristen and Claudia.
Watch the double feature. All right. Yeah.